Hello and welcome once again. Nigeria has suffered more than a decade of unrelenting attacks from various terrorist groups on the northeastern flanks of the country. Most of those attacks and the attendant loss of thousands of innocent lives and property had been the handiwork of Boko Haram, a group that professes hatred and revulsion for Western education, but continues to deploy to devastating effect some of the most sophisticated military-style weapons that are undoubtedly byproducts of Western education. A carryover of the activities of Boko Haram has been the spread of insecurity, or a worsening of the same in almost all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. Well, joining us now to have a conversation about this is MOHAMMED Adamu, Nigeria's Inspector General of Police. Welcome. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. President Muhammadu Buhari appointed you as the nation's 20th Inspector General of Police, the highest ranking officer in the force. This was on January 15, 2019. And now you are on the eve of handing over or possibly getting your tenure extended. Let's look at the past 2 years of your service. What will you point to as the biggest achievement or achievements? And then, of course, your most challenging challenges?
Once again, thank you for having me. When I was appointed as Inspector General of Police, it was at the eve of general election, 2019 general election, and we were saddled with the responsibility of making sure that we provide free, fair, and credible election, and that entails a lot of things to be done in terms of identifying our officers that we met on ground, which their morale was done, and we needed to bring them on board through training and retraining, and for them to understand what is required of them for the general election to be conducted free and fair, and then the deployment of the required resources, and then having to sit down and re-strategize with the INEC staff and also the ad hoc staff, and then collaborating with other security agencies for us to be able to have free, fair, and credible election. That we did it successfully. And at the end of the exercise, the general election was adjudged to be free, fair, and credible, not only within the country, but even outside the country. The NGOs and the observers that came attested to that. Now, apart from the general election that we made, and it was a challenge in that time, we inherited issues of banditry, kidnapping, and activities of, again, kidnappers along Abuja-Kaduna Road. And we needed to do something to deal with the situation. As of that time, if you can remember, Zamfara State was like epicenter of kidnapping and banditry. So, again, a new strategy needed to be put in place to bring the situation to order. I had to sit down with the new governor that was elected, and I went to Zamfara with my team and had discussion with the stakeholders there, both the conflicting or warring groups, the ethnic groups that were fighting themselves, and including the Fulanis, and the traditional rulers and religious leaders. We sat down and ironed out and identified what the problems were and resolved to solve them. And collectively, with the use of, with kinetic effort and negotiation, we're able to arrest a lot of kidnappers, we're able to arrest a lot of bandits, those bandits that felt that the firepower of security agencies including the police, was so much on them, they had to surrender and give their arms. And those that were kidnapped, the kidnapped victims, were released. And today, Zamfara is no more the epicenter of banditry and kidnapping. Abuja-Kaduna Road was an issue. Again, we had to come up with an operation, we call it Operation Potholder, where our officers, selected officers, were trained and given special training for them to intervene day and night where banditry and kidnapping is prevalent. Our priority then was to clear Abuja-Kaduna Road, which we did successfully. Then we moved to another area that was very disturbing in terms of attacks, which is around Binungwari in Kaduna State. There's a place called Kuduru, which was like a headquarters of these bandits and ISWAP. And we had to strategize, got all the equipment that were necessary to fight, and got the officers that were well trained to go and do the fighting. So we entered into that forest and dislodged the kidnappers, dislodged the extremists there, because the group of kidnappers that were there were this Islamic State of West African State, West African Province group that stayed there. We've been able to clear that and other camps within the state. We have expanded the operations up to Katsina, Niger State, and Kogi State. Recently, you could see what is happening in Katsina. When bandits move from Zamfara, they always go to Katsina. But with the strategy we took some months back, we've been able to bring sanity in Katsina, where a lot of bandits were arrested, kidnappers were arrested. Those that got the heat also decided to surrender with their arms, and victims of kidnap were released. Just yesterday also, you saw the governor of Katsina State making a public statement where some kidnap victims were rescued, and incidentally, the victims came from neighboring state and neighboring country, Niger. We were able to rescue them, and many more that were taken within the country as victims. This is under the operation that we organize. We call it Operation Potholder, which achieved a tremendous success in sanitizing Katsina, Kaduna, Niger, Zamfara, Sokoto, Nasarawa, and Kogi State. In the southern part of the country, especially the southwestern part of the country and the southeast, where we're having issues of robbery, cultism, we're also able to come with specific strategy to deal with those specific types of crime within those geopolitical zones. Okay. If you remember, there was a time...
Inspector, just sorry to butt in, but I'm just curious, as you chronicle some of these achievements, and no doubt they are credible ones, why does it seem that the more you attack, the more we still get, it's like a hydra-headed monster. We still have various cases of banditry still going on around the country, and in particular in the Northeast?
In the northeastern part of the country is more of insurgency. In the northeastern part of the country, and you know the effort that the security services are making. The military have achieved a lot in the northeast in curtailing the activities of the insurgents. And in the northeast, it's a collective effort. While the military is leading in the onslaught, there are a lot of police officers there that are fighting side by side with the military. And because of the successes that has been achieved and is still being achieved, you could see that the terrorists are finding it difficult to even easily attack citizens. Rather, they go to remote areas where people are either in their farms or areas that are not motorable. They go and attack there and then make a lot of publicity out of it. But if you go to Northeast today, Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, you move easily from one town to the other. But when the terrorists attacked a village, they have their own means of making propaganda to make it look as if they have taken a whole town or a village. So in the northeastern part of the country, it is really insurgency, and collectively, the military are leading the onslaught. Other security agencies are there, police are there also fighting with the military side by side. In the northwestern part of the country and the north central are the areas where we're still having pockets of challenges of banditry and kidnapping. And these are group of bandits that failed to surrender. And because they failed to surrender, we have taken the fight this time around, not waiting for them to attack, but we go to the camps, and all the confrontation that you've been hearing and recording are taking place in their camps. When we reach their camps, they know the terrain more than we do, because that is the bush where they are. They lay ambush and attack security services, but then we don't give them room because they attack, we withdraw. No, we continue to take their camps one after the other. So we are degrading them. Most of their camps have been reduced, and it's out of desperation that you see you are already in their camps. So what do they have to do? They have to fight. And in all the fights we do, we always inflict heavy casualties on them. So to continue, in terms of what we've been able to achieve within the 2 years period, for over 10 years, we've been trying to have this Nigeria Police Trust Fund, the law to be in place so that Nigeria Police will be able to have sufficient funding to perform the duties of maintaining law and order in the country. We were not able to have it until this government came on board. The government of MOHAMMED, we've been able to get it with the contribution that we made in liaison with the National Assembly. And again, Nigeria Police Act, which has been an old law that was enacted, some of the provision does not meet up to modern policing, democratic policing. We needed it amended, in fact, repealed for a new one. It is only during our period that we've been able to achieve that, and now we have a robust, people-oriented police act that, if operated to the latter, policing in Nigeria will change for the better. Right. Again, there are other laws that we are working with National Assembly to legalize some of the institutions we have. Most of our police stations and police colleges are there as police colleges, but they don't have legal backing. So if you go for courses there, you go for professional courses, police courses, but you don't have recognized certificate to show that you went there and did those courses, except for internal use. But now we are working with the National Assembly. We are getting the bill for the Nigeria Police Academy. It has passed third reading. The same thing for police colleges in Ikeja, Jos, Kaduna, Enugu. And we have even, in order to give, because we take training and capacity building as, so serious, for us to be able to succeed and change the Nigeria police, we need our human resources should be such that can be competitive with any other policing organization all over the world. So strategically, we have also created National Institute for Police Studies now, and the bill for that has also passed third reading. Already our officers have been going for strategic courses there so that our senior level officers can be strategically sound in interpreting policies and implementing policies as it relates to crime and criminality, security, and law and order within the country. Now, looking at the nature of the country and the policing structure of the country, we believe that policing must be from grassroots, and decision and identification of problems on policing or crime and criminality must come from the grassroots rather than from the top. So we have adapted community policing strategy as part of internal security management strategy in this country. And since we came on board, we initiated it in terms of implementing the strategy, and up to date, we are on it and we have achieved a lot. What does it entail? It entails that policing the community must come from three pillars. You must identify the problem, security problem of the community. And if you identify, you must partner with the community in order to solve that problem identified. And if you are partnering with the community, you look at the policing structure you have. Is it a centralized or decentralized structure that will adequately serve the community? So we look at this structure, we look at our policing structure, and we found out that we needed to decentralize our policing architecture in such a way that decisions can be taken at the lower level rather than at the higher level.
Right.
So we went about the implementation of this community policing, and the details are there. What you can see, we went around the country, made campaigns from one geopolitical zone to the other. We alerted members of the public on what it is. We got stakeholders right from traditional rulers, faith-based organizations, market women, and all stakeholders who are sensitized on what it is. And then now we have created advisory committee at national level, state level, and local government level. And we have also recruited and trained the community policing officers that will work in the communities. How do we do it? We went to the.
Yeah.
We went to.
You will still continue. IGP, you will continue with the achievements, but let's try to relate and chat on the program. Well, you talked about your synergy with the army in dislodging the insurgents, which is fantastic. But the question I want to ask you is, the army is supposed to dislodge, and when they do, like they usually would do, the police is supposed to come in, mop up everything, then maintain peace and order. Why is this not being done? Or is it really being done? That's one. Then secondly, the question of paying bandits, because you said in the Northeast, is a question of bandits and then insurgents. Now in Katsina, there's been tales and tales of bandits. And there's talk about the governors, in Katsina and Nasarawa paying bandits. How have you been able to get around this, in your trying to maintain security? Because that's quite a big problem, a huge problem.
Did you say governors paying bandits?
They get into agreement with bandits.
No, okay. In the Northeast, yes, the military are there in the forefront doing fantastic job, conquering all the camps of these insurgents. They have in fact liberated every space that the insurgents took. And as they did that, we have what is called a squad. We call it Civil Restoration Squad that are in the Northeast. They are purely police officers for the restoration of civil authority. So where the military liberated, you get there, you see police stations created, see police officers taking control of those communities. That is what is existing now. And for those people that have traveled to the northeastern part of the country for one activity or the other can attest to that. So that is on ground. I've never heard or seen any governor giving money to any bandits. What the governors are doing really is that those bandits who have surrendered, they surrendered their arms, they are no more into banditry. The governors consider them as their citizens, and they try to look for alternative means of survival for them. But they don't give them money to say, okay, go home. They look for alternative means of survival and engaging them, because they know that these people will need one form of business or the other to do for them to survive. That is what is happening, but not carry money and giving a bandit and for him to go. That is what we know.
Okay, Inspector General, I know that there are many more attributes you could credit to your time, and clearly there will be laudable ones, and yet there's a cry for police reform. So let's go straight for the jugular. Regarding the Police Reform Act, help us understand how this piece of legislation differs significantly from the Colonial Police Act.
Well, the current Police Act 2020 is a complete departure from the old one that we had. The current one has taken into consideration that all police activities, police as an organization must be accountable and transparent in all its dealings. The current act has taken it as a principle that every police officer and police as an organization must respect and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms, and that it is imperative on the police to partner with other security agencies. This is part of the law. It was not part of the law before when you said you are cooperating with other security agencies as part of a protocol or cooperation agreement and the rest of them. But this current Police Act has made it as mandatory, as legal, that you must take into consideration all these things. And that the current Police Act has also given some legal backing to the function of the Inspector General of Police, where it was not the case in the past, like ensuring the physical, mental, and psychological well-being of all police officers now rests on the head of the Inspector General of Police, and is to see to the welfare and condition of service of police personnel, and also facilitate access to legal support for suspects, accused persons, and detainees in police custody. Remember, facilitate access to legal support, which was not in the previous Police Act. And that IG must ensure...
Sorry, yeah. I have to butt in here. We're going to keep you on pause. When we come back, you continue from where you stopped. So we're going to come back and continue with the police reforms. You're still watching News, a special interview with the IGP, Mohammed Adamu. Stay with us. All right, in case you're just joining us, we're having an interview here on Arise News with the IGP, Inspector General of Police, MOHAMMED Adamu. IGP, you're going to continue from where you stopped, but let me add this, which is part of what you're addressing. Some have argued that at the heart of police reforms ought to be a move from an agenda of repressing and subduing Nigerian citizens to one of serving and protecting, especially at the lower cadre. I've had to deal with the senior cadre police officers at times, and it's quite a different ballgame. So would you agree, and what will it take to achieve this paradigm shift?
I will take it again.
All right, I'm saying that some have argued that at the heart of police reforms ought to be a move from an agenda of repressing, to an agenda of repressing and subduing Nigerian citizens to one of serving and protecting them. And especially at the lower cadre. I've had to deal with some senior police officers, and they're quite, show some courtesy. So would you agree with this submission, and what would it really take to achieve this paradigm shift?
Yes, policing the society, especially by police officers, is not to cause hardship for the members of the public. It is rather to serve members of the public. Those that may find it uncomfortable to see police officers should be the criminals, those that have criminal tendency. But at the course of interaction between police officers and members of the public, police officers are always trained and advised and being monitored to be civil in the interaction with members of the public, to be courteous, and to respect the law. And to achieve this, we need to, as we've been doing, constant training and retraining of our personnel for them to understand that they are servants to members of the public, they are not masters. That's why during this period, we indicated that you don't get elevated from one rank to the other without going on course. And when you go on course, you are a better police officer. Now, having provided all the trainings to the officers of all ranks, expecting them to do what they have been trained to do, expecting them to be courteous to the members of the public, still you will see some that will go foul of what they are supposed to do. Yeah. Either as a result of stress they have at the course of performing their duties. Some of them lose their guards when they see members of the public. But that shouldn't be an excuse. If you become uncivil to members of the public, you become unruly. We created channels through which you can report, and that there are disciplinary procedures to be taken to deal with such officers. And incivility to the members of the public is one of the disciplinary offenses. But we want every police officer in Nigeria to be professional, no matter your rank, whether you are a constable or member of the rank and file or commissioned officers. We wouldn't want to even allow you go and suppress members of the public. That's why we insist on training and retraining of our personnel, so that members of the public will be proud of the police officers that they have.
Inspector General, at this point, I just want to suggest that we may well have cases like the one you've illustrated, where under pressure they let their guard down. What some of the people who were, especially those who came out on the NSAS protests, were complaining about was what tended towards a premeditated predatory behavior. So taking it to end SARS, some have argued that the 5-point agenda that it birthed were merely symptoms of a more deep-rooted problem. So if you agree with this, help us identify key areas that must be addressed if we're to usher in true police reforms.
Hello?
I'm assuming you heard me, or should I take that question again? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get you.
I'll try and compress it so that you get to speak. I'm saying that whereas what you said is correct, the issues that arose with the NSAS protests had more to do with premeditated predatory behavior. And leading on from that, some have said that the 5-point agenda that came out of the NSAS was merely symptomatic. So we're dealing with a more deep-rooted problem. This is what some have said. So help us identify, if you agree with this, what must be addressed if we're to usher in true police reforms?
Well, I didn't get you right, but let me say that you are asking that the issue that brought about the NSAS protests, especially the 5-point agenda that led to their demands, were just a symptom of more deeper rooted problems.
That's correct.
Is that what you are saying?
That's correct, sir.
And you want us to identify the key areas that must be addressed if we are to usher in true police reform.
That's
Is that
correct.
what you are saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Oh, okay. Police reform in this country, almost every successful administration that comes tend to come with one police reform or the other. Different committees have been set up. We had the Adamu committee, we had MD Yusuf committee, we had Pari Osande committee, all on police reforms. Police works within the society, and the society is dynamic, so functions of the police also dynamic. There are a lot of areas to be that require reforms in the police. Take the personnel, for example. The training curriculum that we have in our police colleges have been training curriculums that are out of date with modern policing, that will require them change, and which is the process we've just started to change them. Instead of the regimented type of curriculum that we have been taught, we're now into more problem-solving curriculum that police officers should know. The personnel is themselves, the kind of logistics they require for them to police the society require modern type of logistics, which are difficult to come by, but gradually the authority have understood the need for modern equipment that is needed for doing policing, instead of moving along the street with only with some without guns, and then you say you are policing a very volatile community, and the modus, the standard operating procedure for engagement is not it's not commensurate with the level of crime within the society now. All those ones need changing. If you look at the welfare of the personnel itself, in terms of their take-home and allowances that they require for them to be dedicated and doing the service, requires reforming, requires some actions to be taken. And then The decision-making structure in the police needs to be decentralized. Not everything should come to the commissioner of police for a decision to take. Not everything should come to the assistant inspector general of police in the zone to take. And not everything should come to the IG for the IG to take decision. Decision must be decentralized. And so in reforming the police, we believe, and we've started implementing it anyway, that the structure we have, yes, we have one inspector general of police, but in every state command, we have commissioners of police who are in charge of that state, and the state has a state government with a governor. So the commissioner's police responsibilities and area of jurisdiction and powers, his powers, stay within that state. So it's to work with the governor and implement policies of government of that state in areas of crime and criminality and law and order. He doesn't need to refer to Inspector General of Police for any decision to be taken. The Commissioner of Police must have the ability to take the decision himself there. The same thing with the DPO the same thing with the DPO at a local government area. There's a local government authority there with the chairman of the local government and his council. The DPO is part of the council. So any matters on security, crime and criminality discussed within the local government must be implemented there. DPO must take decision without waiting for the commissioners of police to tell him what to do.
All right.
Or the IGP.
Yeah, let's come in there.
And then,
okay. Okay, land now, come in there.
And I should continue?
Okay, let me just come in there now that you've stopped. You touched on personnel, the issue of remuneration. Let's deal more with that, because the talk about town is that the police are not well remunerated. That's why they can take, the allegation is that they take money from, citizens along the road. So what is the police authority or the force that you're in charge doing to improve their salaries, their working conditions, the place they live, and then, of course, their pensions? Are we doing anything of note to improve this? I mean, you've talked about the equipment, but then somebody said, if you build the houses and you don't build the people you don't build will destroy the structures that you have built. IGP.
Yeah. In terms of the salary of the personnel, yes. The Nigerian police personnel don't have the same salary scale with other staff of the Federal Civil Service. It is a different structure, but still it needs improvement. And because of the realization that police need to be better taken care of, get better pay, this government, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, has already given approval for upgrading the salary of police personnel at all levels. And there's a committee now working. In fact, one of my staff has even gone there in the meeting now on the upgrading of police salary to a better level that every police officer will feel proud that if he takes that salary on monthly basis, he has no basis anybody coming to entice him with some little money here and there for him to compromise his function. So this government has taken the bull by the horn in terms of taking care of police salary. On pension, again, this government, we've written to the government and Mr. President has approved that police pension, the system that is existing now, is not serving retired police officers very well. So there's a scheme that is ongoing that police will completely be removed from that scheme to a different scheme, which other services are enjoying that scheme, and they are getting better pension. So a committee from the office of the SGF and PENCOM are already working on that for the Nigerian police to get out of that existing pension structure to the new one, so that we can have a better pension when you leave office. For example, in the public service, a permanent secretary, when he retires, he goes home with his salary that he takes as his pension. So, and in other services, people of that level, it goes the same way. So in the police, why shouldn't it be the same?
Exactly.
Because that is not the case now.
Okay.
But so now this government is correcting that error.
Fantastic. All right, IGP.
So that when you reach certain level, you can go home with your salary as a pension.
That will be interesting. Let's keep you on pause.
Yes.
We'll be back in a bit and we'll continue with you. All right, you're still watching News Today, and we have the IGP, Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu. He's still here with us. IGP, let me ask you this. You know, we were all witness to the protest. Many were of the view that your men abdicated their responsibility. I mean, all over the nation, things were spoiled, destroyed, and that's the opinion of some. What do you have to say to this, particularly with providing security and stopping the destruction of lives and property? In most of the states lost quite a lot during that period, and people.
It seems you are talking of NSAS protests, is it?
Yeah, NSAS protests, where there were many destruction, hoodlums took over, and the talk is that police abdicated their responsibility. They didn't come out to defend properties, Why was that? And how do we guard against that occurring next time?
Okay. Everybody in this country knew what happened in terms of the NSAS. Group of people. In the first place, there has been agitation for the reform of SARS for several years, right from 2015 up to this 2020. And successive police authority have been doing their best to reform the activities of SARS, because there are robbers, armed robbers here and there, and that group of people must have to counter them. And in 2020, this same demand for NSAS came. And where it came from, it came as a result of fake news that came out of Delta State, where a local security outfit called Delta Safe, where you have police officers going on patrol here and there, and they accosted some group of individuals who immediately they saw the police, they took off, police followed them. In the process, one of them just vaulted out of the vehicle, fell down. A passerby just did the video of it and uploaded it and said SARS killed somebody, which was not true. SARS was not involved, nobody died. And then there was protest in Nogeli, and all of a sudden Lagos took it a day or two, and then it went all over the country as a result of fake news. But it happened. And when it happened, they were protesting peacefully to say that they needed SARS to be scrapped, they needed reform of the police, they gave 5-point agendas. And we sat down with them in my office. I engaged the youth, I engaged the musicians, I engaged the entertainers, I engaged the Human Rights Commission, I engaged civil society organizations. We had a series of meetings on how to address the demands of the youth vis-a-vis activities of police personnel. We acknowledge that SARS has been doing a beautiful job, a lot of good job in curtailing activities of violent crime. But within them, we have bad eggs, which we've been doing everything possible to see that we remove bad eggs from the system. Now, they went on protests, peaceful protests, and We gave them police officers to be going along with them to make sure that they are not molested at the cost of protesting. Nobody comes to molest them, or that they don't even cause problem for other road users. And it continued for days until their demands were met. When the demands were met, the expectation was that they would be off the street and then they'll come to a round table for further discussion. But they refused to leave the street. And they continue, as they continue, they change the tactics, they change the style, they change the modus operandi, now became violent. And when they became violent, what was their target? Again, the police. They were targeting police stations, police barracks, police personnel, all over. When such attacks come, you have options. Police officers have options. When you assess situation on ground, you are carrying firearms. So you assess the situation and see when to use your firearms and when not to use your firearms. And remember, police officers are not trained to kill. Police officers are trained to preserve lives.
Okay, Inspector General.
When you use your firearm, when you use your firearm to maim an individual so that you can restrain that individual.
Okay,
so
Inspector
when these
General
people came in multitude, attacking police stations, attacking police property, and the rest of them, the expectation of some people was that police should use firearms and kill. You can't kill your people. So police show maximum restraint, became professional, and then made sure that they don't create fatalities during the protest. And the protest was not even on police property alone. It went to corporate organizations were destroyed, individual houses were destroyed, businesses were destroyed, including media houses were destroyed. And for that reason, we vowed that never again in the history of this country we will allow such kind of violence to take place.
Okay, let's look at the aftermath of that
ourselves.
Violence, Inspector General. I want to turn your attention, if I may, to the losses on your side. You lost many men and police formations to the protest. So what is being done in terms of compensating the families that lost their husbands and even to the criminal elements that hijacked the process? So where are we in terms of the restoration process, sir?
Okay. Let me also correct the impression that policemen were not seen somewhere. You destroyed a police station. A police station is built within your community to protect lives and property, and you destroyed the police station within that community. So where do you want the police officers to be? The police officers that didn't lose their lives and they were not injured moved to the headquarters, and they were doing their police duties on a daily basis. But within the community where the police station was destroyed, no place for them to stay. So they moved to the headquarters. They have never one day abandoned their jobs. And of course, with all that happened, you will expect that as human beings, the morale of the personnel, especially rank and file, will go down. So I had to go around and reassure them that what they did in terms of dealing with the situation was professional. They saved the country from more anarchy by not being provoked to the extent of using their firearms to kill people. But at the end of it, a lot of arrests were made of those people that vandalized a public property. They vandalized and attacked individuals who made arrests, and then we've taken them to court in different states. Some of the masterminds of these protests, we've arrested some and charged to court, and we're looking for those that are on the run, which we have evidence that they sponsored the protests, they masterminded it. We're looking for them also for them to face the music, because this country is a country that has laws, and the laws must be obeyed. There is not any country in the name of protest. You go on peaceful protest, then it becomes violent, and then you say you will go free. It is never done. Those officers that lost their lives and those that were injured, We have a system in place for compensation. The federal government has put in place processes for the compensation. Some state governments have also taken upon themselves to compensate them and their families. On our own part, we motivated those people that were involved, those that were injured, and those that died. We motivated them by promoting them to the higher rank so that they feel encouraged to do more. Because these are people that didn't abandon their duty posts. They stayed and tried to protect their police station, though they were overwhelmed, and still they survived, and they needed to be compensated.
All right. Thank you so much, Inspector General of Police Mohammed Adamu, for your time on Newsday here on Arise News.